Well, hi there. I'm Randy Cross, and this is the Randy Cross podcast. This is our second effort of our first season, technically. The Unsafe Spaces has gone away. So this is episode 2 in our first season. And a lot of the same things you saw there in the open will be in the show. But we have a very special guest, will be our interview this week. And that is Kimberly Bays, who's a communications and innovation team leader with the UN Development Program in South Sudan. And in the interest of full disclosure, I will also tell you, I'm from a big family. I had a brother and 5 sisters. And Kimberly is the daughter of one of my sisters, Christina or Tina. And you know, this is my niece. So if she lets loose an occasional Uncle Randy, you'll know why that is. And coming right now is my niece, Kim Bays from the South Sudan. Kim, welcome.
Hi, Uncle Randy. Thank you for having me.
That's great. Before we go into exactly what you're doing there in the South Sudan, just wanted to set things up a little bit. You know, you grew up in Southern California, down the San Diego area, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and so
Oceanside.
How does a girl from the Oceanside area end up at Temple University, got your degree there, and then get so involved on the continent of Africa? Because you're working there now, but it's far from your first time you were in that country, or that continent, I should say.
Continent, yeah. It's been an interesting journey. I think I was unique in that I was kind of a weird kid, starting from high school. I took an interest in learning, specifically at the time the Rwandan genocide really resonated and captured, my concern and my attention. And by then it was several years after, so it was more examining why it happened and why we as an international community kind of let it happen the way that it did. And that kind of just started to snowball. Why did a California girl go all the way to Philadelphia for university, Temple University, proud owl? I went to, Oceanside is very diverse, and I wanted to make sure my university experience was also diverse and different, and I had never spent much time on the East Coast, so that brought me to Philadelphia. And once there, I was recruited into this organization called the Organization of African Students, where I made some lifelong, many of them are still my friends, and started to learn about other areas of Africa. I had spent a summer in Cameroon before I went to college, so all of these experiences kind of built on one another, and I feel like Africa as a continent is just, it's an area of the world that you start to dive in and you learn a little bit, and that leads you to learn more and learn more and learn more. And I think professionally, I started to like the idea of looking at very complex challenges that come from, kind of all sorts of sectors, and how you would solve them. So how do you prevent genocide? Or how do you grow an economy? These are really complex issues that take lots of different actors to solve.
And I mean, just from the standpoint of point of reference, size-wise, people should be aware of the African continent, how big it is in relation to our country, because often Americans just think of everything in the size of North America, and the African continent just dwarfs North America.
The African continent is vast, and I think because of the orientation of our maps and how the globe, how we take a sphere and we make it flat, has for generations kind of presented Africa in a smaller representation of how large it is. I believe all of the other continents can fit within the African continent together. And I know, for example, many people will not be aware of South Sudan and its history, but Sudan is the size of France, the size of Afghanistan, if you want to compare it to other countries. But when you look on the map, I think on the globe, it looks teeny tiny.
Yeah. What are some of the particular challenges? Because for those that don't know, you were taught in geography classes, at least I was, when you kept looking at maps, there was a listing there that just said Sudan. And now there's a South Sudan. What are the particular challenges there for you with the UN and going to a country that A, is fairly young, and B, may not have the infrastructure needed to really get up on their feet?
I mean, the challenges are enormous. I think, they gained independence in 2011. The United States was actually one of the major, kind of friends of this movement that wanted to seek independence from the North, who are both culturally and ethnically much different than the South. And they fought for their independence for over 30 years. So that has a profound effect on people. Every man and young man up to a certain age has served militarily. Every woman has, either lost some male counterpart and had to endure a lot of challenges. Actually, women and children represent almost over 60% of the people who are displaced here in the conflict. So it has a big effect on everything you can imagine. But, for example, the paved roads, there are, you can count them on one hand. And they were built after 2008, 2010, 2011, 2012. So there was a lot of rapid development that happened at independence in 2011, which really came to a halt. The first wave of kind of the internal civil strife that began in 2013 and continues to some aspects today.
Well, you've been in that area for how many years now? Because I know you went through some. You talk about the strife in the area. You went through some pretty dicey moments not that long ago.
Yes, I was in Juba, the capital city, in 2016, July 2016. There was active fighting that happened between kind of two factions of leadership here in the country. And that involved, active fighting going around around our compound. We all within the UN tend to reside in compounds with high walls and guards and things like that. You can move quite freely. I arrived in 2016, and your movement was free, but your curfew was 9 p.m. at the time. And then after July 2016, when things really went downhill, they moved. Everything takes a step back, including, we're working in development. We're not. I don't work with the humanitarians, the people who give the food drops from the sky, World Food Program, and entities like UNICEF, who really help protect children and give support in many different ways. We do kind of different work. We need there to be peace. Without peace, there can be no long-lasting development. But we kind of flip it on its head too, because we've seen here, because it's starting from such kind of the ground up, needing to build all institutions, that you can't have peace without development. The absence of both entities kind of create this recurrent cycle of conflict and people needing assistance.
There's an old, and at times maybe inappropriate, but an old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And that is a large challenge you're taking on there in the South Sudan. How do you keep that perspective on a day-to-day basis? Because the goals have to be one thing, but the challenge has to be sort of almost looking at everything in a very today, right now standpoint, and not getting lost in everything on the outside?
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent question. It has had a profound effect on my perspective, even of my country of origin, the United States, and of our process of when we were founded. And, we were also freedom fighters. So this, system of building a government that the people would want from the ground up. I really like to share sometimes some American history when I'm speaking to people. And some of these lessons, I think it's very parallel to this context. I think there's a lot of parallels too. As you mentioned, I went to university in Temple University, which is in North Philly, and did a lot of community work there in kind of, a more, community of need. And I see similarities all the time of where do you begin? How do you really address the issues in a way that the system will be improved and the people will be kind of empowered to take ownership of their own, prosperity. And I think what I can say personally is I'm very fortunate. My job, my particular role as a communications officer, sends me out into the countryside often. And it's getting to interact with people who, no matter what the situation is, you see these commonalities, and you ask them, we're often trying to assess how impactful our programs, our trainings are being. And I always fall back on a question of, what is your biggest wishes for your children in 10 years from now? And I love hearing those stories of what they want for, what they need to happen, and what they want for their children to achieve. And that's really powerful.
Yeah, that's something. It's great for you to share that too, especially sharing some of, our early history as a country, because, frankly, people back here kind of tend to forget about all that. And in a lot of cases, they just don't know.
Yeah.
What from your perspective?
I think it's also an idea for government. Sorry, we also work with the government, and this idea that it takes time in a world now that moves as rapidly as Twitter moves and social media, and understanding that Rome was not built in a day. When you speak to people and you introduce yourself as an American, you kind of get a reaction like, oh, you guys have it all figured out, and there's so much prosperity there, and there's your political system works so well, and you can kind of share, we had our own civil war that is technically the longest lasting war that Americans fought in. So for a long time.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Hey, for you, do you get this much, and you're in the communications and you're innovation team leader, how much of the media are you involved with there? Because in searching stories about South Sudan, this seems to be an area that's, you'd be far from saying it's overserved as far as attention in the media goes.
There definitely needs to be more attention in South Sudan. And working with my UN colleagues who have served in other places too, it's hard to say that South Sudan needs more attention than Yemen, than needs more attention than Syria. It's hard for, I know, people who are far away to resist becoming desensitized to hearing stories of need far, far, far away, and trying to figure out, stay interested long enough to listen to what the solutions are when they don't really fit always in a slogan. But I think that, it's interesting, the way that the media works here. I think sometimes is a little demoralizing to the locals. I think it misses some of the positive small steps. They might take 5 steps backwards, but there are people here who are doing very tenacious, determined, grunt difficult work to move their country forward. And I really think that's a part of some of UNDP's innovation and the initiative that we're trying to do with the Accelerator Lab is really trying to surface up more. Mm-hmm. And I know that just on a personal note, when I came over here, I made a conscious effort on my Instagram and on my Facebook to try to share more positive stories and empowering images of the women and the children and people doing work, because it's everywhere here, and that's not to diminish the huge challenges and the life-saving support that happens as well. But I think to miss that is to also misrepresent how it is. There's a lot of happiness. Just an interesting anecdote is I'm learning how to salsa and bachata and merengue. And I think it's a funny thing that I will be able to tell people when I leave South Sudan that I learned how to become a salsa dancer. It's kind of unexpected, but there's a community of locals and expats who meet together, weekly and dance and enjoy themselves and kind of do something positive and healthy.
If people out there or here in the U.S. Want to know more about what's going on with you guys in the UN Development Program, where would they go on the net?
So we have our global website, undp.org, and if you want to access some stories and information and through our website, our social media, specific to South Sudan, you would go to ss.undp.org.
So that's SS?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. Kim, I really want to thank you for doing this. We're going to have to revisit as things go along if you would like to. It's fantastic, and I can just say, I'm so proud of what you do, always have been, and it's incredible what you're involved in over there. And I know your mom is about to bust. She's so proud of you, but there's a lot of us here that feel the same way.
Well, thank you so much, Uncle Randy. It seems weird, I cannot just call you Randy.
That's fantastic. Thanks again, Kim. Be safe.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you to Kimberly Bays. Like I said, I'm pretty proud of that young lady. She's doing some very amazing work. Time now for a little Randy Cross Sports. Yeah, as always, our sports news will come in a three-peat or a three-pack. First one on our opening story is March Madness. CBS and Turner doing an amazing job of covering all these games. The weekend was nuts. The Elite Eight and the way that it shook out. And if you haven't seen it, go back, go online, go wherever you need to go, but see some of these games. Our Final Four, which is going to be in Minneapolis. Yeah, Minneapolis. So they won't be outside a whole lot. But April 6th, it's a Saturday and a Monday. And that Saturday with these four teams, Michigan State, Texas Tech, Virginia, and Auburn, is, I believe, one of the great days in sports. It's right there with the Super Bowl. It's right there with Sunday at the Masters. It's right there with any other big game or day you could ask for. It's pretty special. And then they play the final the following Monday night. Congratulations, especially to Auburn and Bruce Pearl. Not only are they kind of a local team, my daughter Crystal went to Auburn, so she's a War Eagle. But it's great to see somebody kind of out of the box coming into the Final Four. And I know Texas Tech is out of the box too, but they're a long way from me. All right. Second story of the weekend I'd like to highlight, the match play The World Golf Championship match play was down at Austin Country Club in Austin, Texas, and had a lot of crazy stuff, fantastic matches, great shots by a lot of golfers, including Tiger Woods and Bubba Watson. But Kevin Kisner and Matt Kuchar played in the final, and Kevin Kisner won and played some excellent golf in the process. And it's match play, so it's a little different. It's not about strokes. It's about head-on-head type of matches. And it was also University of Georgia and Kisner against Georgia Tech and Matt Kuchar. So there's a little side story there, but kind of fun stuff. That's number 2. Number 3 for the week is baseball related. And when I say baseball related, it's because, well, it's not so much the baseball being played in the parks, because there's 162 games. It goes for flipping ever. I mean, it's the thing that wouldn't die as a season. But this year in Major League Baseball had some great food. Yeah, Major League Baseball food. I'm going to talk about food because you know why? It's a lot easier, and it's a lot more common ground with people than talking about politics, because everybody bitches and moans and argues about politics. Nobody complains about food. Let's start with number 5 with Kauffman Stadium, Kansas City Royals, the Korean barbecue kielbasa. Yeah, that's what's there. It's a smoked pork kielbasa, Korean barbecue sauce, daikon radish, and kimchi slaw, with, of course, fries. Oof. Number 4 is the banh mi dog. Yeah, Comerica Park in beautiful Detroit, Michigan. This is a thick slab of bacon, fatback, whatever you want to call it, thick slab. It's got Asian slaw and sriracha aioli and a little cilantro on top, I think that is, to spice it up. Number 3 on the list, and this is from the Minute Maid Ballpark in Houston, Texas. It's the prime rib steak sandwich. Whew, that's a lot of food. It's beef prime rib, caramelized onions, horseradish cream, and split top bun. Ooh, good luck with that one. Number 2, cuckoo fries. T-Mobile Park, Seattle Mariners. French fries, togarashi Japanese seasoning, red tobiko, which is flying fish roe, chili sauce, horseradish cream, and chives. And it's named for their new pitching phenom, Yusei Kikuchi. Okay, there you go. And number 1 is the Blooper Burger. Yeah, the Blooper Burger. That's at SunTrust Park here in Atlanta. It's 4 cheeseburger patties, a foot-long hot dog, chicken tenders, jalapenos, cheese sauce on Texas toast. And access to a free session with a defibrillator actually after you finish. Just be sure that you get back when you hear the words, clear, clear. Oof, rough stuff. All right, that'll do it for sports. Let's now get to the wambulance for the week.
You better grab your blankie and just squeeze it real tight. These people need to get a real life.
Chad Prather, get a real life. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, there are certain things you can always count on with people. Number 1, if you have a kid and they're near a stove and you tell them, don't touch that, it's hot, what's going to happen? Yeah, they're going to touch that and they're going to burn their finger. Well, we also learned over the weekend they had the NAACP Awards in Los Angeles. And before that was going on, or before it happened, their master of ceremonies, Chris Rock, was told no Jussie Smollett jokes, no mention of Jussie Smollett. So what happened? This.
I guess I gotta present an award. They said no Jussie Smollett jokes. Yeah, I know. What a waste of light skin, you know? You know what I could do with that light skin? That curly hair, my career would be out of here. You fucking running Hollywood. Yes, no, just... What the hell was he thinking? From now on, I ain't never gonna know just... You're Jussie from now on. You don't even get the you no more. That you was respect. You ain't getting no respect from me.
So just a reminder, if you don't want something to happen, don't tell a comedian not to do it, because 99.99% of them will immediately start with whatever you don't want to hear. There's your lesson for the day. And here's our feel-good story of the week.
This is the good news. This is the good news.
Yeah, this is a fabulous feel-good story, and it's a combination of things. It's about a young man. It's about a disability, part of it. It's about Star Wars. It's about the Force being with you. And it's about a star like Mark Hamill getting a chance to get involved. Because you see all the amazing stuff that's being done right here with technology when it comes to bionics and limbs, be they arms or legs, or in this case, as you see in the middle picture, sort of a takeoff on Star Wars and some of its robotics. But I think you'll enjoy this little session right here. The
best thing about my hero arm is how it responds to like the muscle movements in my arm, like the details on the covers, how it moves. Like, I really like my new Star Wars covers because like they're really cool, and I love the detailing on it. When I seen them, I was like really super happy.
Great. Mark Hamill too got involved and congratulated this young fan on the amazing BB-8 arm. Here's his quote. "Remember, Luke lost his hand to Vader, and that didn't stop him from defeating the Empire." That's a great message to a young Star Wars fan, and congratulations from Mark Hamill means a lot. Been around the Star Wars franchise for a lot of years. Great stuff. Thank you so much for that story. All right, want to remind you where you find this Randy Cross podcast. Primary place to find it is at randycross.com. But we're also on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, SoundCloud, iTunes, Twitter. Thank you so much for viewing this week's effort. And I want you to take a look at this Happy Trails with a little bit of a golf tinge to it.